Welcome to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. We are grateful that you've joined us for this week's broadcast. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion by calling her at 626-461-3344. That's 626-461-3344. Or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. And now, here's Stacy. Hi, I'm so glad to be back this week. I have a 3-part show coming up on hot topics in marriage. And this week, I will be talking about communication. But before I do, I wanted to share with you about a company that I am an affiliate with, and they're called Earthly Wellness. If you go to my website, and I'll include the link under my video, but my website on my products I love page, you will find Earthly Wellness there. And when you click on the link to go to their website, that will be my affiliate link. But for everyone that purchases product through the link that I provide you, you will get 10% off your order. And that discount code is Choose Natural. I will include that discount code as well underneath this video, but I wanted to share some products with you now. We are currently in the month of February, and some parts of the world are still experiencing winter. So that means there's cold and flu seasons, sniffles, sore throats, and all of that. So I wanted to share with you a bundle that they have called their winter bundle. And I decided to purchase that because sometimes my husband and I get scratchy throats, and I don't want them to advance into being a sore throat where I'm coughing and everything. So just a few days ago, I started coughing a little bit in the middle of the night, and I couldn't get my throat cleared, and I couldn't get the scratchiness to go away. And I remembered that I had some really great products from Earthly Wellness. One of them is a throat spray. So I sprayed 2 in the back of my mouth, and it actually has a really great flavor. There's peppermint and echinacea, as well as elderflower, lemon balm. There's organic alcohol and glycerin and filtered water. Anyway, this really tasted good. I had another a throat spray that was so nasty, but it did the job, but I really hated it. So I wanted to get this one, and I really like it a lot. I also dropped in about 10 drops of the Feel Better Fast, as well as Cough Be Gone. Now, on this one, on the label, it says it's for kids. However, with the directions for adults 13 plus and older, it has directions in how many drops to take. And again, these are all natural and organic products. And I also ordered some elderberry. And again, it says it's for kids, but for adults 13 and older, 20 to 30 drops daily. And I do drop the elderberry in my smoothie. And you can take all of these on their own without having to drop them into anything, because they all taste really good. So if you want to naturally fight colds and sore throats, scratchy throats, if you just want to take this as a preventative, I highly recommend it. And again, that's Earthly Wellness. I will include my affiliate link at the bottom of this video, as well as the discount code where you can get 10% off your order. And if I remember correctly, they have free shipping on orders that are $50 or more. All right, so now let's get into today's topic, and that is hot topic number 1 in marriage, and that would be communication. So as always, I start with a personal story that introduces the pain of the show. So, my husband and I, for the longest time, and even a little bit lately, I don't know what's going on, we have had issues with communication. I would talk with him and he would ask me a question, and I'm like, have you been listening? Because I'm like, if you were listening or if you heard what I said, you wouldn't be asking that question. Well, I know for me, that is a wounding from my family of origin with one of my parents who never really wanted to listen to anything that I said. And she would always change the subject. And it said to me, what I had to say wasn't worth listening to. So my husband and I have struggled a bit with hearing, with listening, with understanding. And we've worked really hard to use some of the skills that I'm going to share in today's show as to how you can be better listeners, how you can better communicate with one another so that you can avoid any misunderstanding. So, I want to share some hope of scripture and God's wisdom. James 1:19 says, "Therefore, my brothers, let every person be quick to listen, but slow to speak and slow to get angry." That quick to listen. It is really about listening to what the other person is saying. It isn't listening for when they're done talking so that you can speak. So there's a difference. When you're waiting for the other person to stop talking, you're not really listening to them. And I think that's where a lot of the miscommunication happens. So just be quick to listen, stay focused on them, be, slow to speak and slow to get angry. And then I love Colossians 4:6 that says, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person." And again, that goes to listening. How do you know how to answer someone if you're not truly listening and hearing them? So, a question that I have here is, how does one begin the process of developing healthy communication within marriage? First, you'll need to figure out what your communication style is. I did a two-part show on effective communication in season 1, where I review some of the different communication styles. There's the passive style, there's the passive aggressive style, there's the aggressive style, which is a little bit more angry. And then there's the assertive style. And that's the style that I want to focus on today because that's the healthiest style of communicating. So, this is the ability to express your feelings and ask for what you want in the relationship. And you do this by using I statements. For example, and these examples are from materials that I use when I am counseling engaged couples as well as married couples. It's from Prepare Enrich. So, this example, I'm feeling out of balance. While I love spending time with you, I also want to spend time with my friends. I would like us to find some time to talk about this. So, this is the correct and healthy way of using the I statements. The wrong way would be, I really don't like it when you. There's an I statement here, but there's also blaming. So the I statements, when you're being assertive, is all about taking responsibility for what you want, being able to communicate in a healthy way what you're needing as well. Another way of developing some healthy communication within your marriage is to practice active listening. So, not the listening where you're listening for the other person to stop talking, but active listening. So, this is the ability to let your spouse know you understand them by restating their message. So it involves it involves listening attentively without interruption and then restating what was heard. So you acknowledge content and the feelings of the speaker, which lets them know whether or not the message they sent was clearly understood by having the listener restate what they heard. For example, I heard you say that you are feeling out of balance and enjoy times we spend together, but that you also need more time to be with your friends. You want to plan a time to talk about this. So it's not restating verbatim what the other person said, but it's restating it in your own words that allows the other person to know that you actually did hear them and that you did understand. So, when each person knows what the other feels and wants, that's assertiveness. And when each knows they have been heard and understood, active listening, intimacy is increased. If you think about that a little bit, and my hot topic number 3 in marriage is going to be intimacy. So I'll touch on that more in that show. But when you're feeling heard and understood, you also feel closer to your spouse. You also are developing trust and safety in your relationship. So, going into the final segment of my show and the teaching and the counseling, how does healthy communication develop intimacy in a marriage? One, it's by giving your full attention when talking. So that is, give your spouse your full attention when they're talking. That could mean turning off the television, turning off your phone, and making eye contact. Whatever may be going on that would create distraction, make sure that you eliminate the distraction so that the two of you have that concentrated time together where you can speak, be heard, and then speak and be heard and understood. So, another way to develop intimacy in your marriage through healthy communication is by expressing gratitude to one another and affirm something your spouse did that was helpful to you. It is so easy to get into complaining and being critical and not being grateful. We can focus on the negatives. And what I would recommend is focusing on the positives of your spouse, and in a kind and gentle way. If you must criticize, and I'll get into that, that's my next point, do it in a gracious way. So avoid criticism would be a third way to develop intimacy in your marriage through healthy communication. And if you must criticize, balance it out with at least one positive comment. For example, and this is my personal example. I appreciate you washing, drying, and putting away the dishes. If you're not sure where certain kitchen items go, please ask me instead of leaving it on the kitchen counter. This happens quite frequently where my husband sometimes he just doesn't remember, or he says he doesn't know where, say, the lemon squeezer goes. And I get a little frustrated because we've been living in this house for 13 years. And I think to myself, he still doesn't know where that goes. He's asked me on more than one occasion. And rather than going down this road of, are you kidding me? You don't know we've been living here how long? I could affirm him and thank him for drying the dishes. For, first of all, he washes the dishes when because I cook. So washing the dishes, drying them, and putting away. And sometimes in the meals that I make, I'll use other gadgets, kitchen gadgets, um, and he sometimes just doesn't know where things go. And so I know that I can be a little bit more gracious and not feel so frustrated. It's so easy to focus on that rather than on the really helpful and kind things that our spouses do. Another is to listen, to understand, and not to judge. So, communication means to be understood, which means it could take a while. It could take a while going back and forth, listening, trying to understand. Because, look, know this, when we're speaking, when we're hearing, we've got our pain filters on. And so it's the message is not getting filtered correctly. It's not going out in the way that it's intended sometimes, and it's reaching the other person's ears, and they're going, "What in the world are you talking about?" So understand that there may be some pain filters there, but really listen to understand and not judge. So I'm a person where I ask questions. I ask questions because I want clarification and because I want to make sure that I'm understanding what someone else is saying and not make assumptions. Also, another way of developing intimacy in your marriage through healthy communication is to avoid the blame game and work together to find a solution. You are a team, you are a partnership. So avoid blaming, which actually does not develop intimacy. It drives a wedge in a relationship and it will tear you apart, and you'll be further distanced rather than coming together. The other thing too is that what happens quite a bit is that there's a lot of miscommunication in marriages. Sometimes couples just don't know how to come back from it. They're unable to work together to find a healthy resolution. And in this instance, where if the miscommunication continues and you're unable to work through to a healthy solution, then I would highly recommend consider seeking some counseling. Sometimes a third person that's objective will be able to hear what both of you are saying and be able to tell you, well, you know what? You're both saying the same thing, but it's coming out differently, and help you come together rather than the chasm that has been developed because there's been so much miscommunication. One of the tools that I use in my counseling is called the FANO'S Check-In. So the each letter in FANO'S stands for something. F is feelings, A is the affirmation, N is to communicate your need, O is the hold on a minute. I think O is objectivity, or let me look it up right now. I should have had this before I started this, but man, I use this all the time, and it's so funny that I'm blanking on. Oh, it's ownership. All right. So you take responsibility and you apologize for something you've said or done. And then S would be the struggle that you're experiencing, not necessarily in your relationship. It could be maybe some struggles that you may be having physically or emotionally, or not anything that has to do with your relationship. And even if there is a struggle within your relationship, you'd be able to still communicate that in a healthy way. I'm going to upload this FANO'S Couples Check-In on my website so that you have that as a free tool. Well, I love it. So F again is feeling. So you share with your spouse a feeling you have. I'll also include the feeling wheel as well, because sometimes it's more than just sad, mad, happy, whatever. There's levels. So there's more than seven feelings, folks. So the feeling wheel may be helpful to you in using this in your FANO'S check-in. Again, I feel, so a feeling word, not I feel that you, or I feel like. but you really want to hone in on what are you feeling. It could be disappointment, it could be sadness, it could be anger or frustration, but you want to hone in on that. Then the affirmation again, you affirm your spouse for something that they've done, a need. So state a need that you have today, and it's not necessarily a need that will be met by your spouse. Ownership, already mentioned that one, and then the struggle. And there's the correct and incorrect way of sharing this. So this particular FANO'S check-in, I use it quite a bit for couples that I work with where there is sex addiction and betrayal trauma. And so on this particular check-in, you will see for S, the struggle or sobriety. And if that is applicable to you, then you can use it for that as well. So the FANO'S check-in is a really great way. That's something a lot of couples do daily, some 3 times a week, where you're there. It's a point of connection, but not necessarily conversation, because there may not be time. So I would recommend just doing your check-in, but realizing that, hey, this may be something that we're needing to talk about further, that you and your spouse determine when and how much time you're going to need. If it's you're running out the door to go to work or you're going to bed, that may not be a great time. So you could do the check-in during a time too where there is some time available, where maybe the kids are down, they're sleeping, or there's time in your schedule where you've got 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and you can do that. So I like to close out my show with some scriptures that I'd love to leave with you. Proverbs 17:27. A knowledgeable person controls his or her tongue. A discerning person controls their temper. And then in Psalm 19:15, and that's in the complete Jewish Bible version. In the other translations, it will be verse 14. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be acceptable in your presence, Adonai, my rock and redeemer. So I look forward to having you all tune in next week, where I'll be talking about hot topic number 2 in marriage, and that will be finances. That is a big deal. And what I want to do as I close my show, as I do every single week, is for those of you that have walked away from the church, or if you are thinking about receiving Yeshua into your hearts, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is info@trueyouministries.com. And my phone number is 626-461-3344. My website is trueyouministries.com. I have a button on my website that is a free consultation. That's 20 minutes. That's an opportunity for you to share with me what you're seeking counseling around, and I'll get to know you a bit and ask you some questions, and I'll share with you what I offer, and we can determine whether or not counseling with me is a good option for you. And if it isn't, I'm always happy to give you some referrals as well. I want to make sure that you are in the best possible hands to be able to help you with whatever struggle that you're needing counseling around. Again, my website is trueyouministries.com. My email is info@trueyouministries.com. And my phone number is 626-461-3344. I appreciate you listening and watching. Until next week, may God richly bless you. You have been listening to True You Ministries with pastoral counselor Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is a licensed pastoral counselor whose own journey has taught her the importance of having a safe place to discuss the harder issues of life. You can learn more about Stacy and her heartfelt desire to help people, much like yourself, who may be at a place of pain and confusion, by calling her at 626-461-3344, or feel free to email her at info@trueyouministries.com. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back next week at the same time. May God richly bless you.